Hi everyone, today we're going to be making a living fairy garden. I don't mean that the fairies are living. They might be, I hope they're living, but I mean the trees and the plants and everything are living. So yeah, I've got some baby trees, we've got some bonsai equipment and some of my crafty bits, so let's see how we get on. Right, let's introduce you to what I've got here. First of all, we obviously need a plant pot of some sort. So what I'm going to use here is one of my favourite old bonsai dishes. It's got a bit chipped here, unfortunately. This patch of glaze has gone off it, but it's a lovely big dish, so we can actually create some, a bit of a landscape effect going on in there. So let me just put this under here. I'm filming this while my other half's out. I don't think he'd be too impressed if he saw the mess I'm making of the dining table. It's a new dining table. Right, I'll show you my bonsai kit as well. This is a lot of stuff I bought fairly recently. I don't know whether you'll need me to put clips for this, links down below or not. Just let me know if you do. However, what I've got is tiny little gardening equipment. Of course, you can use just teaspoons out of the kitchen are quite handy, but I will have those there. I've also got, in case we need them, loads of little tiny clips. These are actually sold as clips for houseplants, holding them in place. I'll put a few out in case we need them. And I've also got some little garden cane type things, the little miniature ones for houseplants. These can be quite handy if the little plants don't want to stay upright at first, so we'll keep those to hand as well. The other things we've got in here are some scissors. Some little sharp scissors that came with the bonsai kit, so in case we need to do any bits of tiny pruning, and lots of wire. Anybody who's looked into growing bonsais might know that you need different gauges of wire if you're going to train them into different shapes and things, although I don't think I'll need to do that with the plants I've got today. And these are more little pruning clippers as well, so we'll keep those out. One thing I am definitely going to need, and typically it's right in the bottom, is some mesh. Now, bonsai pots, like most plant pots, should come with drainage holes in the bottom, which is great, but the soil falls out through them if they're proper bonsai pots. You'll notice that tray, I'll show you again in a moment, has got quite a big hole in it. Now, you don't want the hole to have all the soil fall out, and you don't want, but by the same token, you probably don't want to block it. Although, I'm going to be using houseplants today, so it could be that I do want to block it, really. I don't know. Because this is going to be a bit big to go on a tray on a windowsill, I think. So there we go. So what we'll do, let's assuming for now we just want to block the hole up with some mesh. That's what you do. You can actually put a bit of wire through to hold it in place. If you've got two holes, that's easier because you can wire them together. But I'm just going to put the soil straight on top of that today. So we've got some other bits and pieces to use. We've got our little plants. These were little rescues from a garden centre. They were some of the ones that they were selling off cheap because they were, basically they'd had it really, they thought. However, I rescued them. I bought them for 50p. I've had them now for a good few weeks, and they've dropped a few leaves. As you can see, there's 3 in this little pot. It's a little fig, weeping fig. So it's dropped a few leaves, and yeah, I just felt sorry for it. So I brought it home, and it carries on dropping leaves, and then one day I forgot to water it, so it dropped some more, and so on. But these make really easy little bonsais. So I'm just trimming off some bits as we go. So I've just tidied it up really. I've just taken off any bits that weren't growing leaves, cut off any loose bits. So yeah, really that's what we've got in terms of a plant for now. I've also got some mind your own business plants. These were growing like crazy in my other fairy garden, although it is a bit off season for them, so they're not looking at their very best at the moment. But hey, they'll do the job. They'll do the job, and they will start growing again. So I'll prune those back, and we'll put those in. The other things I have are I've just been out and got these out of the front garden. The succulents are just starting to grow back, that were growing so nicely in my front garden last year. So some of these are really tiny. I've taken some little cuttings as well. So we've got some little miniature plants there. And then finally, the pond. I make these ponds predominantly for model railways. Now what you could do is sink a real bowl of water in it and use that as a sort of a watering hole for your plants, but I was going to just set this into the surface. The other things you can have, of course, are bits of rock and bits of wood and all sorts of things like that. So I'm going to see what else I've got that I can incorporate as we go along. So I've got a very vague idea of what I'm doing in terms of where things are going to go, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is put some compost in. Now you can, of course, get proper compost specifically for bonsais. Now, on the basis that the ones that I'm using here are basically houseplants, I'm not worrying about that. I'm just using some normal, and in this case reasonably fine compost. And because this is quite a moisture loving set of plants, well, not so much the succulents, but they won't mind. But you know, I'm not going to worry too much about putting layers of gravel and mixing a lot of grit in with it and things like you would do with maybe your outdoor bonsais. I'll show you my outdoor bonsais sometime. You'll see some of them actually in a little video clip I did with one of my very first videos. It might be the actual first video actually. I'm trying to remember. I did some resin with autumn bonsai leaves in. I did a bookmark on a coaster just to see if it would work, and yeah, so I did a little walk around the garden with my phone, so there are some shots of them in there. So there we go, I've got a basic layer in. Now I've got to just decide where to put everything. Now my little house, this is where the fairies are going to live. There's the little door. These were all also made out of Aqua Cast. The windows are made out of resin with a bit of ultraviolet, not ultraviolet, bit of glow in the dark stuff in them, so if it catches the light it will glow at night. Oh, we're going to put our little house in. Now I need to decide how high. I think I want this to go up a bit, and I'm going to want the roots of the plants to come down over it. So forgive me for facing this towards, actually no, I will try and do it backwards. There we go, I'll try and do it backwards so you can see which way I'm doing it. Now, I'm not putting it in the centre, I'm putting it slightly to one side and slightly back a bit. Don't know if you can see this position. It's probably a third from this end and a third from the back-ish. So now I'm just thinking on the height that I want. I'm going to want it to come up a little bit higher than that. Excuse my arm. I'm extremely right-handed when it comes to these things. Put the compost to my right, shouldn't I? That would have helped. Right. There we go. So I'm just raising it up, giving it a little bit of height. We'll carry on doing that as we go along. In fact, I'll put some more in now, and I'll put the soil inside the little pot as well. I did drill some little holes in the bottom of this pot. You could, theoretically, you could make it hollow. All I wanted to do really was get the little trees, or at least one of them, growing out the top of the pot. Now the thing about little fig type plants of most sorts really, the Ficus benjamina type things, they will have roots that will grow quite happily sort of up and out and over things. They will grow out of the soil effectively. So what I want to try and do is train the roots so as it's coming down over the sides of the little pot, because I want the pot to look like it's a bit of a tree root thing going on. So once I've got my structure in place, we can start putting things in. So that's roughly, that's about where I'm going to want my little house. Actually, I'll turn it a bit, because then I can put like a little footpath coming down here, and I think we'll have the pond over here, maybe, yeah. Right, I'm going to turn the little trees out of the pot now, and I'm doing this kind of, sorry, it is off camera. It's going to be a bit messy, so I'm having to do it over to one side. And I'm going to get the soil off the roots. Could have done with the second camera, couldn't I, really? But all I'm doing is just giving it a bit of a shake to get the soil off the roots, so we can see what we're dealing with in terms of plants. So I'm doing this over the bucket because I don't want to waste the soil. It's really nice soil actually that they put in with these, and I topped it up with some fresh when I got them home. But what I want to do is show you the roots. Okay, edit this down, Trace. Right, back, and well, goodness me, these roots are big. Can you see that? Just make sure you're still in shot here. Yeah, they have some serious roots on them. I think they kind of hold the moisture in here. Now, these are 3 separate little trees, and I was hoping to be able to separate them, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to without doing some damage. Oh yeah, hang on, this one's going. There you go. Having said that, they are very forgiving. Figs are quite little toughies. There you go, I've separated them. Excellent. Let's put that one to one side. These two, will they come? Yes, they're going. Trying to be gentle with them. I'm not panicking too much if I do break a bit of the root though. Now, part of the reason I'm showing you, yes, that's spot on. Part of the reason I'm showing you using this particular type of little tree is that, one, you can get them in little pots with several in from a garden centre, you know, the bit where they have all the like bottle garden plants, that sort of thing. And two, I wanted to show you what the roots on these do. I will show you another plant in a bit where the roots have gone really crazy, but you can actually get these to go up out of the ground and they'll be quite happy. They're kind of very clever little things. The other thing we do is trim them down a little bit. No harm in trimming the roots a little bit. In fact, on my big bonsais I have to every time I repot them, which is kind of every couple of years. Call it root pruning. So I'm just having a tidy off screen there. Now, as you can see, that is not going to fit in that pot, but a bit of it will. So what we're going to do is try and push down. I'm wanting it to stand proud still from the pot. I'm pushing it down into the little pot. I'm going to tidy up some of the roots and push them in. But this big root here, I want this to come down the outside like that and into the soil, because I think that's going to look quite cool. Now, you be the judge of that. You can probably see it better from your side. And this is where one of those sticks might come in, actually, just to hold it upright. So I'm going to grab one, because like any plant, it's going to take a little while for it to find its feet. And I want this one to stand up quite upright too. So it's just how to go about that in a funny little pot's the question. I'm trying to find the best place to put the stick. Obviously I'm going to be putting some more soil in here still. But yeah, I might just pop that in there with one of these little clips. Just leave it on for a few weeks, just to give it some support. There we go. Because I want the little pot to stay sort of fairly upright. And I'm just going to put a little bit more soil back around the top of there. I should take some out of here. Oh, the trees flopping everywhere. Now I want this to look a bit like a little forest. And so we're going to want, I'm just trying to get to look around it and see if it's fairly straight up, reasonably. Doesn't have to be, of course. And I'm just going to snip off any more surplus twigs where there's no leaves going on and no chance of them shooting either. Bear in mind with ficus species, you might get a little, if you do one of these, you might get a little bit of weeping from where you've cut. You can seal it, but to be honest, I don't worry. They produce like sort of latexy stuff. A bit strange they are. So there's their first little tree, and it'll grow. These roots, I'm hoping as they develop, will come more down over the sides, but we've got our main one. So I want it to kind of look like the tree and the little house have always been together, if you see what I mean. Just make sure I've got my position right. Next thing I'm going to be doing is deciding where to put the pond and the other trees, and I think, yes, I'm sticking with the idea of pond down somewhere around here. I'm just going to plop that on for now. If you want a video on making the ponds, let me know. It's something I can quite quickly and easily do because I make them to order a lot anyway. Now, this little guy I think I'm going to put somewhere kind of here. Now I am going to have to take quite a bit off the roots of this one to do that. So excuse me reaching over. There we are. I'm just going to snip. We're actually going to snip some of the big main root off this one. So we might see it weep. I don't know. again, it'll soon recover. There we go. So I've taken the roots down quite a bit on that one, and I'm going to park him somewhere about here, I think. Yeah, about there. I probably am going to need some of my wire after all to get these to stay put while they start to settle and, you know, get the roots dug in. I have got some little bits of wood around too to act as retainers for some of this soil, but do you know what, I've put it down and I don't know where it's gone, the bit that I was going to use. So here we go, I'm just building it up. Now, the ones in the garden, I grow moss around the bottom, but I found that practically impossible to do with houseplant ones, hence why I'm using some helixine, mind your own business, that's a common name for it is, because that makes like a fine grassy mat, and you can just keep pruning it back. Okay, so there's that one. And then we've got this one, which is rather a funky shape, and I think I might put that here. So we're going to end up with a little bit of a, I'm trying to imagine what this looks from your side. We're going to end up with a little bit of a forest going on. We're going to end up with some nice twisted roots coming out all over the place. Don't worry about the little trees, like I said, they're quite used to it. So I'm going to take the pond out, now I know that I've got my space for that, and I'm just shoveling in some more soil here. And I'm so going to have to sweep up earlier because it's going all over me. Bring my compost pot round this side. This is just normal fine seed and cutting compost, and the compost that I shook off the roots of these little plants, because there's no reason why I shouldn't reuse that. They hadn't been repotted that long really, so the soil that was in with them should be pretty good. So I'm just patting it down. Now the chances are I'm going to end up watering this for a while until the surface plants take hold with a spray, because could end up washing the soil down and out and all over the place, because this is quite a shallow pot, as you can see. So I'm trying to create like a rim around the edge to hold any water back, but you know, it is what it is. I don't really want the soil washing off. Okay, so that is coming on nicely. Once the trees have really settled, I will have a look and see if any branches want taking out. Branches inside here where they cross over, for example, that, in fact I'm going to take that one out now. And that one. These, by the way, will make cuttings. They take cuttings very easily, little figs do. And I'm just wondering whether to put, see these cross as well, just wondering whether to put some canes in. Right, I'll pop these into be cuttings shortly. There you go. So this looks a bit brutal at this point, doesn't it? It's a bit bare, but don't panic, don't panic. It will just take time to settle. So again, I'm just going to put a couple of little sticks in. There's not much soil around them, so it isn't going to give them a huge amount of support, but it should, I think, just be enough. By the way, a bonsai really is just the word bonsai. I've seen translations of it. Some mean planting. Some have said it's plant in a pot. Some say tree in a pot. I think most of us think of it as a tree in a pot. You can put. You can have forest ones. I've seen ones with little Japanese people, Chinese people and Japanese people and things underneath them, depending on the style of the bonsai. But really, generally, particularly with the bigger ones, you will have the tree on its own in a pot. However, what we do in here, you know, people do this as well. And combining it with a fairy garden, I think it's a thing. Why not? Right, so these are some little succulents out of my garden. We had all out the front of the house block paved last summer, and so I've got some lovely raised beds with all sorts of plants in. and I've gone for a lot of things like succulents because they won't mind the dry, the drier days and hotter days out there. And I've also gone for an awful lot of things that bees will, oh look, that one looks like a little tree. I've gone for a lot of things that bees would like. We've got a bee house out there and a little water feature with a dragon squirting into it so that the wildlife are catered for. It's so much better than the horrible weedy moss patch that we had before that didn't really do anything. And of course we can park on it, and we have got too many cars. So I'm just going to pop these little plants in. Now I'm going to before I forget, make sure I've left room for the pond. Now obviously you want the surface of your pond to be flat, because that would look funny if you didn't. You can make waterfalls and stuff. I was quite tempted to put a waterfall in one of these sometime. Real waterfalls or ones like these. I make resin ones for model railways, so in the waterfalls as well. So you can do that too. In fact, there's a video on my channel somewhere. In the mini scenes product reviews playlist, I think you'll find that. I'll put you a link anyway. If you have a look at the links that will be popping up above for you. Everything I reference in the video I will pop in those links. But there's a video of me making a waterfall. There we go, we have a pond. I think that's level. I'll have to keep checking as the soil settles, and of course this soil will keep falling over it. I will keep checking on it and we'll see where it's got to. Because it'll look ridiculous if it's not level, won't it? Here we go, let's put some more of these little succulent plants around the edges, particularly around the pond. And then last but not least, I'll be putting in the mind your own business plant, which will grow all over it. It goes crazy, yeah, you do have to prune it. It'll probably swamp these little succulents quite quickly, so I will need to keep pruning it back. Here it is, got plenty of it. But before I do that, I think I'm going to decide where I want a few features. Now these are just bought things from our local garden centre. And I'm going to decide on, I'd like to have a little bench overlooking the pond. That'd be a nice place to sit, wouldn't it? If this was real. So let's have a little patch there. That's going to be like a little beach type affair. And let's put our little bench there. Let's have a cheesy, oh it's rather cheesy this, but never mind. Let's have a little welcome sign. Could do with a no fishing sign, couldn't I? I can do these ponds with fishing as well. It's not difficult. So if you wanted fish in your pond, go for it. And here's the mind your own business plant. Again, very forgiving. You can see it's got little bits of roots coming out everywhere. This has died off a bit over winter. So I just pulled some handfuls off my other bonsai. Off my other fairy garden type thing rather, and brought them down. I'm going to plant some up in the top there as well, I think. See, what I'll have to do is do a bit of a recap with this in the summer, isn't it? Because give it, I don't know, a couple of months or so and this will have all settled. All of these little plants will have got going. I can take the sticks out and, we can see how it's progressed. The other thing you can do, of course, is put really fine gravel and sands to make some detailing on it. Might do that in a minute, actually. Yeah, but this will soon get going, so I want to give it a chance to get going. So back in a moment, I'm just going to get a water spray and probably some sand. Yeah, quite pleased with that so far. Just going to do a little bit of tidying, and this is where these sort of things come in handy. They're really good for just tweaking and sorting. Actually, I'll use that little guy because obviously I'm going to want that's where the door is, so you're going to want like a bit of a doorstep type thing going on. I'm thinking maybe a bit of my gravel can go there. We're going to want a bit of gravel around the pond. I think I might want a little bit of a beach area here, in fact, where the little bench is, and so on. So I'm having to stand up now. Excuse me if I start getting in the way. Here comes some gravel and grit and stuff. This is budgie grit. You give it to your budgies. Those of you who own budgies, well, you know exactly what I mean. Apparently, fine grit is good for something to do with the digestive system or something. My dad used to keep budgies. I should know these things. So that's budgie grit. So let's have a bit of that. And maybe, do you think we have a path? We could have a path, couldn't we, down to the side of the pond? In our grit. Well, the plants will soon cover this over anyway, but it's just a bit of fun to give it a bit of structure at this point. Maybe we go, yeah, like that. Scrape it off the surface of the pond. Pond is epoxy resin, by the way. Then there's a lot of model railway scenery materials in there as well. There we go. Yeah, I'm thinking this whole area here might be, I'm running out of grit, might be, yeah, a gravelly area. So there, yeah, if you want to do what looks like really, really tiny gravel, well, but it would be chunky if this was in scale, if you know what I mean. So, am I making any sense? Anyway, this budgie grit is great stuff. I use a huge amount of budgie grit and things. Like the other thing I've got is some sand, which I nicked off a beach somewhere. I don't even know if that's legal. Anyway, I can't remember which beach this was off. Actually, it's quite light. This could be Alcudia. I can't remember. But again, it's another nice, if you're trying to make like a gravelly effect. Over here, I want to make a beach, as I said. So we'll do that. And it can spill onto the little pond area. Like so. Maybe I'll put it under the little bench as well. So I'm just going to flatten this. Yes, oh, isn't that cute? Right, there we are. So I'm going to probably put some more of the budgie grit around. Probably put a little bit up here in the top of the pot. So though it's very fine, it'll actually add a little bit of weight to the surface and stop it washing away. So let's just have it around a part of the pot like that. It's just a shame, I always think, that garden moss won't grow inside, because really this is just crying out to all be built up with garden moss. And but you can't, it won't make it. I'm just going to put a little bit more of this budgie grit around the edges. Yes, I did say budgie, for those who don't know about budgies. You know, little tiny miniature parroty bird things, very cute, adorable little birds. Yeah, apparently a lot of birds, it's not just budgies, but a lot of birds need grit in their diet. Probably why you see birds pecking around in the edge of the road, as well as they're looking for worms and things, of course. But yeah, you can get this grit from pet shops, anywhere that has stuff for birds. So I can't remember where this came from. Could have even just been Pets at Home. Ah, no, I know what it was. Anybody who lives in Redditch, I think it was from the corn stores a long, long time ago. My dad used to use a lot of it, not only with his budgies, but when he was doing his model railway stuff. So we always had budgie grit around the place one way or another. So there we go. That's just giving us a bit of shape, a bit of colour, you know, a bit of something different. Now, of course, you can go mad with these. You don't have to try and make them look sort of natural miniature landscapes. You can make them look completely bonkers if you want. I once did a sci-fi one. That was fun. Right. I'm dying to see this from the other side. You've all seen it from the other side. I haven't. But now what I'm going to do is water it. And I am watering it with a spray because I don't want it to kind of go everywhere. So this is just to settle it. And for a few weeks, I will just keep watering it like this. It takes a while, but it will just help the plants to settle once they've got the roots in and it's not going to wash itself down and over the sides and come pouring out the bottom and all that sort of thing, then I will just water as normal. But yeah, in a few months, well, actually what I ought to do is do a series of photos, hadn't I, so that you can see it at all its different stages as it starts to settle. But primarily my watering spot, so I don't wash the compost away, will be the pot in the middle, the house. And the soil will settle in there and we'll end up with a bit of a well in the top so that it doesn't pour over the sides. Because if I water that well, then everything else will get watered. It will work its way down and it shouldn't wash all the soil and the sand and stuff away. Every so often I might need to just wipe off the surface of the pond to keep it shiny. You know what epoxy resin is like, it might yellow if I leave it in the sun as well. So I'll just give it a little wipe every so often to make sure, just to keep the shine up. And I won't be putting this in bright sun. I don't think the little trees would bless me for that much anyway. Over a period of time, what will happen as well, particularly with the, with the watering, I don't know if you can see what's going on here, but the soil is washing away from the top half of the roots. So they will get more and more as they stand up from the soil. Which is why they're so particularly easy to bonsai and get the interesting root things going. Right, just going to give the whole thing a mist because plants like that. And there we are. That's it. We'll see how that looks. Now I'm going to come round your side so you can see, so I can see what it's like. It's coming around the dining table. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Just wondering whether to pop one of these cuttings in this side, in fact. See if it'll take. If not, I could go, probably not enough depth of soil there, is there? No, I'll go back to plan A and put that in a separate pot. I need to clean my pond off. And yeah, there we go. I wish I'd used a pond with fish in it. Now what I shall do every year as this develops and it starts to take shape more, I'll be pruning at the little trees just to keep their shape, try to make more of a foresty look with it. I shall be cutting back the Mind Your Own Business plant a lot because it goes mad, and just generally keep on top of it. And every 2 or 3 years I'll get it out of the pot, give it all a good clean up, put it back in and start it again. And I should be able to over time get more height up from the base. So this little house will be more as if it's on a hill. The bit that's more quite an experiment here though is this is Aqua Cast. I have varnished it. I understand it's pretty water resistant, but we'll see. I'm just waiting to see what happens as it settles. Will it just rot away? I hope not. I hope not, because I enjoyed making that. Anyway, there we are. That's it. I'll take some photos now, and then we'll have a proper good look at it from a few different angles. And yeah, I'll just keep you posted with how it goes. Now, I'm going to pop you some links up here for other videos that I think might interest you if you like this sort of thing. First of all, there's the one on making the pot, which I haven't finished editing yet, so I will, but I'll try and get those both up there for you at the same time. But also I'll show you some other fairy door bits as we go along, as I make them, and I'm sure you'll like dragons. If you like fairy doors and fairy gardens, you probably like dragons, so I'll put you a link to all my dragon playlist as well. Now shout out if you've got any queries, any questions about doing this sort of thing that you'd like to ask, pop it in the comments. That would be great. I'll do my best to get back to every single person on the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you give it a little thumbs up just to let me know that you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Really appreciate the subscriptions, and it will help me to keep you posted and try and be aware of what more things you would like me to tackle for you. So yes, let's get messy, and yeah, I do requests, so bring your requests on. What would you like me to do? Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all soon.